Welcome back to the show. Today is June 18th, and we have Laurie Bowers from HR Intelligence on the podcast. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. So we just had a little conversation here before the podcast that you were, chatting back and forth with my parents' company and my mother, and I think that that's really an interesting story because we've both had a lot of exposure to HR. So for the people who end up listening to this and they've always had like an HR department. They know a little bit about HR, but really never understood the details. Maybe walk us through HR as a whole, just so that we can have a foundation to start from.
Sure. And just as an aside, talking to your mother, we really connected on a lot of different levels. So it was very interesting talking with her and connecting with her. HR is a lot of different things to a lot of different companies. HR can be administrative. HR can be recruiting. Then there's also the talent and the organizational aspect of HR. So when you say that you're in HR, there are so many different tentacles that encompass that whole dynamic and area that you have to really be specific about what you're talking about. My particular focus is on talent development and talent management and making that a part of the business strategy. All of the other pieces of HR, like the recruiting, the onboarding, the administrative parts of HR, are things that you have to do. There's no getting around that. Where businesses sometimes take a shortcut is on the talent development and the talent management side of the HR business. And those are things that can really propel your business into being much more successful, much more productive, and much more innovative.
Yeah, and when you say that people like don't necessarily need to do that step, is it because they don't feel it's important, or they just kind of miss it? Why do you feel that that's not an essential step, or hasn't been an essential step in the past?
Well, I think a lot of companies, as they look at HR, especially if they're having some difficult times financially, HR is a place where you can really cut out some of the costs that you have. It definitely is an overhead cost for a company. However, because you are spending money and you're getting soft value out of it, it's sometimes hard to see and quantify, unlike selling a product or selling a service that you're selling something and you're getting money for. Developing talent and managing talent as part of your business strategy can help you exponentially create better culture, better momentum, better innovation within your company, so that you're going to see exponential dollars coming through the door, but it's not going to be specifically related to a product or a service.
Very interesting. And with your experience, like I know before the call again, you talked a little bit about your 30 years of experience. You do some management and kind of have gone through these different roles, but now you have HR Intelligence, your independent group.
Mm-hmm.
What does that company do? I'm sure you have lots of knowledge and you kind of turn that into an idea into a company. What do you actually do from a service side in that business?
Well, my theory and my principle is that talent development and talent management need to be part of a business strategy to the point where there's a budget associated with it. And if there's no budget associated with it, it's been my experience that the things that are needed to grow your employees and grow your business are not going to get done because they are they're just not budgeted for. And in the recent past, there's been a lot of businesses implementing the disruptive business models. And because of that, they're introducing things that, change the landscape of the day-to-day business. And that is good, and it creates momentum, it creates productivity. However, employees get fatigued with that. And so what I'm trying to do as part of my business is work with companies to plan for and budget for infusing anticipated changes, so that as employees are working and being asked to do more, to be more innovative, they also have an expectation that there's things coming for them to allow them to do that. For example, enhancing leaders' knowledge and skills. There's a lot of leaders within organizations that got there just because it was time for them to be promoted. And some organizations need to provide leaders with different knowledge and different skills to motivate the employees. And leaders would welcome that, because they know that this is an ever-changing, ever-growing management issue, because there's so many generations, there's all of these different people looking for different things out of the workplace and have different priorities. I also believe that growing managers and top performers to be leaders is something that is overlooked almost all of the time. So if you're not doing that, then when you are promoting someone to be a leader of a group or a company, they don't have all of the soft skills, the EQ type, the emotional intelligence, to get people to follow them. They may have the technical knowledge, and probably 100% of the time they do have the technical knowledge, but it's the EQ piece of that that is missing and needs to be developed as they grow in the organization. And then the third thing that I am really passionate about is embracing interns and co-ops and new grads into an organization, to also create that stimulus for people to be motivated, to be excited about new things. It changes the culture of an organization when you start to infuse different types of stimulus throughout, so that they have something to look forward to, um, as in their own personal development, as well as contributing to the organization.
Yeah, and where do you see most organizations changing now, right? I mean, like for example, COVID has really changed a lot of businesses, right? A lot of ways that businesses have done things in the past, they can't do now. Businesses are looking differently into the future. Where do you see your line of work adapting to help these businesses kind of come through, the quote unquote new world, or the new kind of structure of business? Where do you see you playing a role in that?
Well, that's a great point. And I think that the things that I'm working on and I can offer to companies is now more important than ever, because you're right. Either people have been working so hard at work because they're an essential business, that they don't even have time to think about work, or they've been furloughed and they're not working, and they have a lot of time to think about work. So people are starting to really um, look at their workplace. They're looking at their role that they're playing, and a lot of times they're getting fatigued because they just it's either too much work, or they're thinking, why was I working so hard before? So and what was I getting out of that experience, in addition to making the company successful? Was I personally getting any value? And I think that by companies starting to look at their employees and actually set aside dollars to invest in developing and managing their employees, creating um, a workforce plan that allows them to understand what's happening, I think that that is something that will get people excited to get back to work. A lot of people are working from home right now, and um, it's funny. People always wanted to work from home, but I think now people are really realizing, when you're working from home, your work never, it's hard to create a line between your work and your personal life. And they're trying to do that right now. And as they start to go back to work, to the offices, that's going to be a difficult thing to work through. And I think people are going to be making a lot of decisions about their work that they may not have if this pandemic hadn't happened.
Yeah, and it's a tough topic, I think, in many ways, because the biggest thing I think that's going to come out of this is people realize where the inefficiencies are, right? They realize,
Hmm.
yeah, we don't need a
Right.
meeting with 30 people today. We don't have to have a meeting every day. We don't need to have a meeting every week. We probably don't even need to meet at all, right?
Right.
There's so many things in the business that are done just for the sake of doing it, right? The generations come through these bigger, even mid-sized companies. They come through it and they just go, oh, well, why do we do this? Oh, well, we've done it in the past. We've done it in the past. And so there's no really organizational change that happens over time. And what you're doing is really actually quite disruptive, which is awesome, because you can allow almost outsourcing of that skill set or that service. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. And it's something that once an organization sees this type of program working, um, you you do see the value, and you do get the better process, the better efficiency, because people are understanding what their roles are, and they don't have to continue to micromanage. They become leaders and not, micromanagers. And you grow this business and these people's skill sets so that it runs like a fine-tuned machine, as opposed to just doing what we've done because that's all we know.
Right, right. And do you think, like, is it your opinion that you will see more outsourcing coming up here? And when I say outsourcing, I'm not necessarily talking about like going to the Philippines for labor or India for labor, but more
Right.
outsourcing of professional domestic services. For example, like, payroll outsourcing, or hiring outsourcing, right? Like recruiting, like you're talking about, or some of the work that you're doing, right? Making sure that the
Right.
HR
Hmm.
process is done. Do you think that more businesses are going to kind of downsize from the employee headcount and go towards contracting and business relationships?
I think that where they can, they will. I still believe that businesses like to have employees that they know and trust, but they also are willing to supplement those people. From a outsourcing perspective for payroll and things like that, my niche is smaller businesses. Um, so those businesses are going to really struggle with having um, a full HR complement staff working for them going forward, because there is so much, and they're seeing that in the HR world today. HR managers and directors are just overwhelmed with the work, especially from this pandemic. And I think that you're going to see a lot of people using different types of outsourcing. For example, PEOs have become more prevalent in the smaller business area. A PEO is a company that you outsource to, and they do a lot of your HR functions for you. They do your benefits, they do administration, onboarding, things like that. Where they're missing the mark right now, and I think that this will probably come, but those types of companies can't give you the specialized, customized type of work in the talent development and talent management part. And that may be the other piece that if they are going with a PMO or PEO, I'm sorry, having also someone working with them, developing their talent and developing their management. It was interesting. I was talking to a company the other day. Most of their senior managers are 62 or above, and they are looking to put succession planning in place, and they have a lot of work to do. But my comment to them was, well, as part of this pandemic, all those folks that are 62 and above may have been working from home and thinking to themselves, why am I not retiring? I like doing this. And it may come faster than they had hoped. So there's a lot of uncertainty, I think, with people right now because it's a new normal and they are seeing different aspects of life that they might like better than going to work every day. So I think that there's going to be a lot of changes in how people actually manage succession planning, optimizing their workforce, and making sure that they have the skills and talents they need to continue to grow their business.
Yeah, and I think that that's actually a really important way to look at it too, because succession planning is something that everybody knows is required, but like not a lot of people actually do it, right? That's like the big part, right? You actually have to
That's
like
right.
sit down and do the steps to make sure that it's successful. And
Hmm.
I think people miss that. Just like you're talking about with some of the work that you're doing, people miss the step, right? They just go, "Oh, I didn't know that was a step." So,
Right,
uh,
right.
that can be challenging for a lot of businesses who otherwise would, they're not trying to skip steps. It's just that they don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So
Right.
the question, that I'll kind of leave you with here is, if with your service, how do people actually utilize it? Like maybe walk me through how you can plug into a business and kind of turn it around. What are some of the core pieces for somebody who's never had anything that you do done? What are some of the core things that you would do in their business?
Well, initially, I would work with them to find out where their biggest need is. Is it at the leader level? Is succession planning where you're growing your managers and top performers? Or is it trying to bring in, interns and co-ops to bring in innovation to stimulate the folks that have been there? Um, Based on understanding that, I will work with them to put a plan in place to grow these different areas and work with them and do some training, uh, figure out where the gaps are, and fill those gaps with the knowledge or changes that are needed. Um, a lot of times that when I'm working with these folks, I'm doing some kind of an analysis. It's either a skills assessment, it's performance assessments, things like that that need to be done, maybe haven't been done for a long time. And then I can create a people strategy uh, based on one of those three aspects of talent development and management to help them put a plan in place so that their folks understand and know and can anticipate what they need to do going forward. The other thing that I do is work with them, making sure that they have a commitment to this. And once again, the commitment is dollars in a budget for this particular type of learning and management.
Yeah, and that really is the biggest part too, right? You talk about people committing mentally, right? Like saying, okay, yes, I'm problem aware, and they might actually be solution aware with what you're
Hmm.
doing, but can they sit down and pay for your skill sets?
Right. Yes, and that's an investment. It's an you know if you're a company and you have to make investments in certain things, machinery or something like that, you're willing to do that to grow your business. Um, well, talent is the same thing. People need that investment. It's been my experience that if these things are not something that people think is available to them, the culture is it's just a job.
Right,
um,
right.
when when these types of things are introduced and have priority in the organization, it becomes a place where I will be loyal. I want to spend my career here. I can grow, develop, be innovative. That's what people want to do every day of their life. Um, and it doesn't matter if you're whether you're an accountant, an engineer, or you're working on a piece of machinery somewhere. Um, it's important to feel like the company values you enough and your knowledge enough to grow it and become part of something bigger than just your workspace or your team and that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. So for people who have, small business, mid-size, even large corporations that wanted to reach out to you and have a conversation, what is the best way for them to do that?
The best way would be to email me. My email is Laurie Bowers 411 at gmail.com. And they can email me, and I would be happy to talk with them about what their issues are and how I can help them solve those issues. And we can start partnering and getting those things resolved.
And that's Laurie Bowers, right? Laurie
That's
Bowers.
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show and kind of, it's a short episode, but I like to keep things kind of tight. Everyone who kind of listens to the show knows I try to go 20 minutes or so and really focus on some of the key points. I think where you're going is going to be a huge benefit to these mid-sized companies that are looking to grow and help their team and kind of work beyond just the recruiting process or just the initial HR process. And I think you have something very interesting to offer. And I think, the listeners, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this, and some of them have big companies. So if you end up listening to this and think that it's a good fit, make sure you reach out to Laurie and let her know what kind of problems you're having and see if there might be a good fit there.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your time on the show, and thank you for all that insight.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate being on.
Absolutely.